we give ourselves permission and each other permission to go 110%, meaning we scream, we cry, we shake, we give the body, the unconscious mind, a way to express without the limiting factor of our conscious mind or the critical brain. Why am I feeling this way? Why am I making these sounds? This is stupid. This is inappropriate. What are other people thinking, right? We take this away, out of the way, so the rest of our being, which is the 95%, can express whatever stress it's been holding and release it for transformation.
Welcome to the Kooler Lifestyle Podcast. I'm your host, Matt Kuehlhorn, and I'm excited to have you join me as I interview community members and business leaders from the communities in which I live, work, and serve through my business Kooler Garage Doors. We're going to bring you highlights on characters in our communities. Why? Because community matters, and I want to know more about who is behind our business and leadership in order to understand and support the community fabric that our relationships make up. And collectively, we can build stronger communities that support our lifestyles, our youth, and our health. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Kooler Lifestyle Podcast. I'm your host, Matt Kuehlhorn. Today, I'm sitting down with a new friend, Johann Urb, who is the founder of the Pyramid Breath Method and spiritual guide and teacher, and beaming in from across the globe. Johann, welcome.
Thank you so much, Matt. It's such a joy to be here.
Oh my gosh, thank you. In preparation for this, I just sat down quietly in this office and getting really centered. I felt like our conversation, could go in so many different directions. I've practiced your pyramid breath method and have gone through with my wife the Tantra course that you are a part of. And I just really, really appreciate it. What I love about it is the focus on the internal game.
Yeah.
And I'd like to start out by just getting a little bit of a synopsis of your story. Where did you grow up?
So I was born in the good old Soviet Union. Some of your listeners might be young enough to not know what that was, but it was a place that sucked a lot. At the fresh age of 10, my mom and I were able to leave the country, and I moved to Finland, my mom, and I lived there for the next 7 years. And then I moved to the States when I was 17. And part of the reason what I do now is because when I was living in Finland, so in the Soviet Union, basically, it was like a giant prison. Like once you left too, like you were cut off, right? This is pre-internet, everything. And so I was very tight with my family, but when I moved to Finland, I felt really alone. And to the Finns at the time, bless them, but I was like the enemy, right? Even though I was Estonian, they were like, oh, you're just a Soviet, even though the Russians had taken our country and our freedom. And so there was a lot of struggle and strife and loneliness and depression and difficulty. And how I happened on the path of spirituality was because I was literally suicidal and depressed. And I began to meditate by myself at the age of 14 as sort of the only thing that I could afford to do. And just, by going in within. And I started to have these wild experiences where, I felt like my problems became to dissipate, or my perspective became different and began to change. And I had an out-of-body experience when I was 15 that completely shattered my reality of what is real and what isn't, and what we can and can't perceive. And so it got me really, really curious. What is there? What more is there that I'm not aware of currently? And that got me into reading the Bhagavad Gita, the Tao Te Ching, Dhammapada, and really got into Eastern philosophy and mysticism because I felt like they kind of spoke to it, to the unseen, much more so than sort of the Western religions. I wasn't aware of the mystical aspects of the Western religions at the time. And so that was sort of my portal into this life that I now fully embody and live.
What do you think the mission for you is? How would you define that?
My mission on this planet.
Yeah.
You know, that's a great question. And to me, as I see it today, as I feel into it today, is to share with folks out there practices that are practical and fun and easy and addictive in the best possible way. How to create a state change, how to change our belief systems, how to not just go and, because you can go and have these peak life experiences where you go and eat mushrooms and do ayahuasca or go to a men's retreat or a women's retreat or whatever else, right? But you're going somewhere to do something. And then the question is, how can you bring that back into your life and live from that place? And for so many folks, their day-to-day mundane reality versus this peak event are very different. And so my mission is, how can I share with you, and not how, but I want to share with the world what I have found for myself, which is sustained, practical, fun, mysticism and ritual and practices that each day you're getting that hit, you're remembering, because one of my teachers says, like, it's easy to get enlightened, it's difficult to remain enlightened, because and enlightened, it's a loaded word anyway, but really it's like it's easy to remember when you do certain practices or partake in certain rituals that we are divine, but it's also just as easy to forget. So for me, it's like every day going back to the source, connecting with the source, remembering who I truly am, where I come from, what I'm here to do. And through that, then sustainably sort of living from that place of joy and love, even though sometimes things are difficult and challenging. How can we layer in gratitude, awareness, ritual, appreciation, and alchemize that energy into creative energy, into, another expansion, and so forth and so forth. So that's what I believe I'm here to do.
It's beautiful, man. I'm still a little bit unclear as to who the real listeners are for Koolers Lifestyle podcast. I'm always surprised when people let me know that they are actually listening.
Right.
And it's fascinating to me, but the conversations that I engage in are lifestyle focused. It's better business, it's living longer, and it's community connection.
Mm-hmm.
And you're speaking to all of these. I want to just dive into breath work specific for a moment, because my understanding and my experience is that this is a potential portal to what you're referencing as far as enlightenment, as far as connecting, as far as remembering who I am. And there's a lot of power in there. So like probably many, I used to numb out with cannabis and alcohol. And when I really started engaging breath work, and this is relatively recent, where this gives me the state change that I was ultimately potentially seeking and just ultimately numbing, right? So I've actually increased my capacity of feeling, which is feeling the real peaks and the real lows. So, your narrative on your website, I encourage everybody listening to go to Johann's site. We'll have links in here. There's a really good description. You're talking about these peak experiences, and then you, in the way I'm reading this and extracting from it, it's almost a maturation, and you kind of get this rhythm. And so you've been doing this daily for decades, and I guess from your experience, because breath is like popular. Right? We've got Wim Hof and we've got all these different methodologies. Can you explain the pyramid breath just a little bit and talk about some of the mechanics as to why it works? Why is it effective?
Yeah, great question. And, there's so many different breath work techniques out there. Actually, I like to call pyramid breath play. And it's just, we all work hard in our world. It's like, you got to work hard to achieve things. And, and so even just adding in the thing of it being playful and joyful, it can be like kids again in a way, right? And when we, especially for the masculine, we somehow have forgotten how to be playful, because it's considered like more feminine or weak, or, we created all these stories around it. But if you guys have ever done pyramid breath, it's like wild and crazy, and we're sounding and screaming and shaking and moaning, having all these experiences. And so one of the ways it differs from other practices out there, and there's many, 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 many wonderful practices, which I'm all grateful for. And, to each there's a value and a time and a place. And how pyramid breath is different is you don't need an hour to do it. You don't need to lay down to do it. It's done seated. You can do it in 3 minutes, 5 minutes. So it's very, very, very practical for most folks who are like, I'm a dad and I got a job, or I don't have time is the biggest thing for a lot of people. And so when you start building that new habit, if your story is I don't have time for a longer practice and I will only get the effect at 40-minute mark, then you're likely not going to do it unless you're super disciplined and you're really like going for it and have time. But if you don't, you're going to want something that's going to give you that state change, going from feeling down or tired or depressed to feeling energized and joyful and hopeful, and remembering in that moment, oh my gosh, like there's so many possibilities and amazing things and life is happening for me, not to me. Then pyramid breath is really for you. And if you want to go deeper into it and do a 10 or 15 or 20 or 30 or 40-minute practice, you can really tap into a deeper sense of sensuality and shamanic states and, get really, really wild. And also in the short practices, full permission and get wild and free. And one of the things I love about pyramid breath is we give ourselves permission and each other permission to go 110%, meaning we scream, we cry, we shake, we give the body, the unconscious mind, a way to express without the limiting factor of our conscious mind or the critical brain. Why am I feeling this way? Why am I making these sounds? This is stupid. This is inappropriate. What are other people thinking, right? We take this away, out of the way, so the rest of our being, which is the 95%, can express whatever stress it's been holding and release it for transformation. And then within pyramid breath is the component of alchemizing this energy into creative force. And now it's not just like we're not getting rid of the anger, frustration, and anxiety, whatever else we've been experiencing. Rather, we are alchemically transforming it to useful energy. So now I can go and do my job better or be better at my relationship or my art or whatever else I want to do, right? Because energy doesn't get destroyed, energy gets transformed. And the other thing I would say is the way that the pyramid breath method is designed is we kind of start by shaking things up, kind of like almost a little bit like strongly or aggressively, if that's the approach that you take to it. And then we get really embodied and sensual and into our feelings and then express it all. And then the final part is the creation part, what I call creation meditation, where we take all this energy, right? So there's this arc where you don't just like leave your body and have this peak experience, and you come back and you're like, wow, that was awesome, but how do I apply this, right? But rather we stay in the body, we stay seated, we stay in the body. The idea is that incorporate all of ourself and expand our container and then create from that place.
Hey everybody, this is Luke from Kooler Garage Doors. Just want to take a quick second to talk about our sponsor, Sommer Garage Door Openers. In our opinion, Sommers are the highest quality product on the market today. We recommend them for all of our residential garage door installs because of the variety of features they include, such as Wi-Fi connectivity and safety features such as a fixed chain, which moves along a secure rail to ensure your garage door opens quietly and safely. Click on the link in the description to learn more about Sommer Garage Door Openers.
Okay, so let me play a little devil's advocate here.
Please do.
And, I'm thinking that there's some listeners who may have never experienced any of this.
Mm-hmm.
And I think in our society, the West specifically, we do so good at not being in our body. We try to project, we try to stay out external, bring in substances, whatever it might be.
Mm-hmm.
Have you seen, well, before I get real devil's advocate, have you seen a progression, or I would imagine just people would have just a wide variety of experiences But when people do start to, dipping toes into this, what's it like for them? What have you experienced from your students, and is there a progression?
Yes, there is. There absolutely is. And we just are finishing our first teacher training program right now, and that's one of the best examples of really, people that show up for that are people that are really, really committed. And we had a bunch of folks that had just done a little bit of pyramid breath and dabbled in other things as well. And I think they didn't even know if necessarily they wanted to be teachers. They were just attracted to the commitment and the discipline that they knew they had to basically take on. And some of the most profound transformations I've seen in our teacher training are, folks who have felt really like held back in their life, like life is happening to me, I'm a victim. These are all words that they're using, I've never expressed my rage. I've never had the courage to say what I really mean. I've played small, I've held back, I've been passive aggressive, like all these things that so many of us do, myself included, like that was me. And to see them, at first it's like weird, I'm having to make these sounds and these noises and shake my body. And at first, like the identity really, really struggles with it, because this is identity death. Like this is a way to let go of the previous version of who we've been and create a new version of who we get to become a moment to moment. And again, identity is fluid. It's not the static thing that we're told that we are. And so to see the identity deaths, right? And you're held in a container, especially in this teacher training container, where we are all holding each other through these transformations and transmutations and ego deaths. And to see, we've just had a bunch of people graduate, and to see like who they are now versus who they were several months ago, Rachel and I literally cry. We just cry because it's so profound and so beautiful to see these folks that have been so shut down, so shamed around their sexuality, sensuality, their voice, their body, whatever else. And now it's like this beautiful expression of aliveness and freedom and boldness and courage. There's this woman who she's got 3 kids. One of her babies has been with her basically the whole time. And she's just blossomed into this powerhouse of a teacher, and like this embodied, sensual, beautiful, responsible feminine who is not holding any part of herself back. And it's just, that's what I feel like I've come here to do, go back to the mission. Like that is what I want more of, right? Because I'm just like goosebumps, like, oh my God, like, yes. So that's what I've seen and experienced, and that's why I do this, for myself as well as for my students. And that's a great question. I believe that everything happens from inside out. And that's one of the biggest sort of misbeliefs in our sort of materialistic world that we've been told is, because it's like, if you spend a lot of time inside, you're not buying a lot of things or surfing the internet, or you're not clicking, and the advertising dollars aren't coming in. So we're really programmed to look outwards all the time. And what we're really seeking is not out there. As we know, success without fulfillment is the ultimate failure. You can be the richest, wealthiest person in the world, have all the cars, the houses, and still be the most miserable, lonely, sad person in the world. Because fulfillment doesn't come from without, it comes from within. And so if you're just looking outwards to find that feeling of love and connection and peace, you're sadly going to fail. And so, and I'm not the other way, by the way. If you just go inside, which used to be the very sort of, old traditions that we know of, you go to the cave, you meditate, you isolate, like, I don't think it's there either. I think it's the balance of the two. And unfortunately, especially in our Western society and sort of just the current society around the world right now, again, we have these amazing devices that we're using right now, doing this thing, and then they're awesome. But we've forgotten about the inner practices. And if there isn't a balance, like with anything, you're going to get lost in it. And that's why, if you're constantly in comparison mode, like, oh, I'm not good enough, I'm not pretty enough, I'm not smart enough, I'm not rich enough, I'm not this enough and that enough. And you don't know that person that you're following is likely having all sorts of self-esteem issues because they, follow somebody who has more followers, has more money, or blah, blah, blah. And they don't know that that person actually is also looking for the thing outside. And it's this thing that it leads to nowhere. And so if we don't look within, and again, if we don't make these practices fun, make them attainable, sustainable, and addictive in the best possible way, so you get that state change, you're not going to do them because the outside is so interesting. So it's so important to find a practice that makes the inside just as interesting or more interesting as the outside is, so you can balance the two. And through that, you will find a beautiful spot in the center where it's just like, woof, life is just magic.
I love the perspective of the internal, the external. I mean, it's almost bringing two paradoxes together.
Man.
The masculine, the feminine, they play both within us. And to heal and to marry both of those internally is a powerful component to life. Yeah. The one question, as far as breath work goes, what makes breath work, whether it's the pyramid method or Wim Hof or any of the other magical methods out there, different than hyperventilating?
Because you're doing it with intention, right? There's and I never start a practice or recommend anyone begin a practice of any sort without intention. One thing that we found during COVID, when everything shut down and we couldn't see each other, I couldn't be in the same room, was how powerful intention and prayer is. And when we have these ways of connecting now from all over the world, right? People can tune in from Japan, from Africa, from the US, from Europe, from Australia, wherever you are, from space. When we align our intentions, magic happens. I always say it's better together. Like, if you can get more people to practice with you, whatever your practice is, whatever your ritual is that you're doing, the energy is so potent. Even though you're thousands of miles apart, we are energetically connected. And so these practices, especially if you are not just practicing alone, if you have the gift that you are practicing with more people, even online, it's so potent for a magic and state change. It's like, when you're just being like, I'm just going to just breathe for no reason, you're going to feel something, but it's very different when you add in the prayer, the intention, the why am I doing this, right? Knowing your why, and maybe it's to make more money or to feel better in your body or have more self-esteem or to be a better communicator. Always give it a reason and a why, and then you know what you're moving towards. We are meaning-making machines, literally.
Yes.
I think life is just kind of happening, right? We're the ones that give it meaning. And so that's why adding the intention in is so powerful.
I love that. Well said. Scientific question.
Yeah.
You had mentioned the devices, and I see that I can observe my own self, like getting a kick off of likes and different posts, and I understand that as being a dopamine kick. And through breath work, is that engaging, one of those hormones? I would imagine it's not necessarily dopamine. It could be serotonin, oxytocin. Do you have scientific knowledge and what that's really bringing up physiologically?
I think that the best, one of the best people to sort of look to for that information is Andrew Huberman. He's done a bunch of podcasts on that. I'm never been like the science guy. And even though, even in our teacher training, I'm like, guys, like if this is the modality that really turns you on, like these are the resources, right? And one of which is for me is Andrew Huberman. He's amazing at it. If you guys don't know him, he's got an amazing podcast. He's a neuroscientist. And so I believe in just in my experience, personal experience and seeing, experiencing my students, whatever those chemicals are named, whether it's dopamine or serotonin or anything else that gets activated, you will feel a state change. Just on a level of like alkalinity, and Wim Hof talks about this a lot. It's like we go from an acidic state, which is like stressed out state, to an alkaline state, which is just a more expansive state, right? And going from like not breathing properly, most of us adults are like shallow breathers, right? Especially if we're stressed out and anxious, we're up here. Unless we're like super anxious and hyperventilating, but you're still like stress hormones. And so when we deep breathe, we're just like using all the receptors in our lungs, and our brain clears out, our blood oxygen goes up. Like, so many good things are happening when we're doing it, but I wouldn't be able to right now name the specific like molecules or hormones that get activated, except like I just call it the happiness hormone. Like, you will feel better.
Yes. I love that. And it's absolutely a state change. No doubt about it.
Yeah.
And it can be a healthy habit for sure.
Yeah. And it's once you learn the tool, it's free, right? Which almost like in our modern world is like, oh, it's free, it must not be valuable because I don't have a price on it, right? Well, hey, join my program and join another program and pay a monthly thing. So feel like, you're paying for it, and maybe that adds value to it or whatever. But it's truly one of the most powerful, scientifically proven practices to stay healthy, to up-level your life, to heal yourself, cure yourself. Like, the benefits are basically endless. And, when you look at Wim Hof, who's, a masterful modern day yogi, super down to earth dude, but who's has like cities, which is a Sanskrit word for like powers. The dude has magical powers. Like, those are the things that you can achieve when you do these practices. Just know that, by simply practicing and staying committed, you will activate parts of yourself that you didn't even know that were there. We're such magical beings, and there's so much to us that we're not even aware of. And you will be able to access those parts and bring them online. And when we do that, our life gets so much better, so much more interesting, and so much more fun.
Yeah. What I love is again, I'm just hearing it come through is the focus on play, right? Like, when we're engaging with our bodies through this breath work, we actually can tap in. I've seen this to where this body, this little bag of water, is like fun. And it is magical, and it's something to be curious about because it's endless. It's endless.
Yeah.
So
one of my mantras that I learned not so long ago, and I can't believe I didn't know it before, and it completely radically shifted my perspective on everything, is life can get better and better forever and ever. And when I heard that, I was like, that's an option? What? And when we do these practices, rituals, and that again is the mantra of the focus and the desire. And that doesn't mean that you shouldn't be happy now. No, you should absolutely be happy now and grateful for the moment. However, to know that we can forever expand, right? That we have infinite capability to expand makes life so freaking amazing and exciting, because every new moment is an opportunity for that. Whether you choose to take it or not, that the option is there. And so each time that I do my practice, which is at least once a day, I often also teach, and so I do it more often, it's like a whole new expansion point. I let a part of me die, and another part of me be born, and I'm like looking at the world through these new eyes. And so it's this forever process of renewal, which keeps life so interesting, because so many folks are bored, or they're just like, life sucks. And so you're looking again at the TV or somewhere else. Where's that thing to get, right? That dopamine hit. It's right here. You're still the one that's producing the dopamine. It's inside of you. So when you do these practices, things get way, way, way better.
Yeah. Great mantra. Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah.
Johann, how can listeners find you, learn from you, work with you?
So easiest thing is to either go to Instagram at Urb Johann or go to my website, pyramidbreath.com. And that's how you can reach out to me and find me. And it's my greatest honor and joy to guide folks, to finding a better version of themselves, creating empowering habits. One of my favorite things, and this has been really, really tough path for me, but because of it, I have a certain mastery in it now, which is communication. And what my wife and I call co-devotional communication, because so often we don't know how to communicate with ourselves and with others without, shaming, blaming, guilting, and shutting down. And so we just don't, or we do, and it's just horrible and bad, and things blow up, and so we don't. And my whole mission, like we're discovering here, is how can we truly make this life the most profound, beautiful, magnificent experience, sustainable experience? How can we be sovereign? How can we be kind and loving and remember that at our essence, we are divine love embodied. We have chosen this experience as the divine to come here, experience our own magnificence. So if you want to experience that, give me a call.
You're the guy. Well, I have to give another plug. We didn't talk a lot about relationships, masculine, feminine. My wife, have had our own journey. We've been together for a couple of decades now, and it's been beautiful, all in.
Congratulations.
And yeah, man, the course that you and Rachel put together, Tantra of Life, is very powerful. And I just wanted to mention that. I know we could probably go another hour in that alone, because there's so much depth there. And in my journey, there's been a lot of healing with the feminine, and I'm constantly working on the integration and the communication, and life gets better and better forever and ever, man. Like, that is just such a cool course. So I just wanted to make sure listeners knew that there was a resource out there to help develop and strengthen relationships. And it's really about the relationship internally that then gets partnered.
Yeah, I think that in my experience, our Tantra Life course is some of the best bang for the buck out there. There's so much in there, and it's we're so proud of it, and we're actually writing a book about it right now. So look out for that. That's coming too. And we have found, as you just spoke to so beautifully, Matt, is like when you master co-devotional communication, when you master the way that you become a master of your own energy and the energetic of the dynamic of your relationship. And it is literally, for me, like experiencing the divine every single day in this orgasmic, beautiful expression of that, again, gets better and better forever and ever. Like my wife and I have been together for 10 years now, and our sex is the best it's ever been. Our connection, our communication, like, we're obsessed with each other in the best possible way. Like, cannot get enough of each other, instead of what I had in my mind before and what I saw out in the world is like, goes the other way. Sex goes away and you kind of put up with each other and you're just grumpy and you're and to be able to hold that new paradigm or that different paradigm. And it's not just like magic. There are actual tools and ways to cultivate that. And so it doesn't become this like, oh, it's just your perfect match. Like, there's no such thing. Your shadows will come out. Your shit will come out. Your darkness will come out when you find a person who's willing to look at it with you. And then it's like, how do you speak to it? How are you able to actually not run away or just shut it down and learn from it and grow from it? And again, die a death of who you thought you were, and then become something completely beyond belief, marvelous and beautiful in your expression and your awareness. And it's just the best thing ever.
Oh man, so good. We will have all of your links in our show notes. And for the listeners, I really, really encourage you to go check out Johann and his work and engage with him. This is not the last time you and I will be speaking, Johann. I really appreciate our conversation. And so thank you so much for today. Thank you so much for the gifts that you bring into the world. I really appreciate you, man.
Likewise, brother. It's beautiful to feel your heart. Thank you for you. And I'm excited to continue this conversation. And my friends, better and better, forever and ever. Let's do it.
Forever and ever. Love it. Thank you, brother.
Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for listening to the Koolers Lifestyle podcast. We count on your subscriptions, your likes, your shares, and I encourage you to do that now. If you're watching on YouTube, go ahead and subscribe, lower right-hand button. If you're on audio, download this, share it, and we look forward to having you on the next one.